Hello everyone, Colin Canad here for Woodwork Web. And if you've been following along with this project, you'll realize that you're now looking at part 3, which is now the finishing. In part 1 we put the box together, part 2 we made the door for the top, and now in part 3 we're going to do the finishing of the little Pickers display box. When it comes to finishing, there's lots and lots of different options. We could varnish it, we could paint it, all sorts of different things we could do with this. In this case, what we're going to do, I've mixed up some dye, an amber dye, because we're using a fir wood that's a little bit on the light colored side. I want to give it a little bit more richness. I don't want it to make it look like oak, but I want it to look a little bit richer than a light wood. The outside of that finish on the top coat, I'm going to use a Tung Oil in this case. And I wanted to use a Tung Oil because we can put a few coats on, and if this box gets scraped or bumped along the way, rather than redoing the whole finish, with a Tung Oil we can actually go back over the surface and it will cover up, the Tung Oil will sort of cover up those blemishes, scratches, bumps that this will get along the way, because this little box is going to be traveling back and forth to different shows and different events, so there's a good chance that it's going to get bumped and bruised along the way. So that's why I selected Tung Oil. But the first thing we need to do, and I'm going to do this off camera, is sand everything down, and I'll sand this down to about a 180 or 220, and then we'll start putting some finishes on. Now I have all of the parts together that I need to do start the finishing with. And I'm going to be using my little Verispin here. This is a handy little rig whenever you're doing finishing. It's a little turntable that allows you to put your pieces on and then just turn them around. So we'll have a link for that on there as well. Now I'm using a water-soluble dye, and I've mixed. You can mix this with mineral spirits, but I actually mix it. I do mix it with water. I'm just using a disposable little sponge brush, and you can see the difference there that it makes. It actually is very nice color, this sort of amber. Now I'm not going to finish this entire thing while you watch, because nobody likes to watch somebody else painting. But you make sure that you stir, whatever you're using, make sure that you stir it or mix it well. And I actually have a little cloth here in case I get drips or I get a little bit too much. So we're going to go ahead and start applying that, and then we're going to cut away. What I mostly wanted you to see to begin with was how these pins stand out on the little box joints that we made. And I'll turn that around to the camera in a second there, and you can start to see now how those pins are actually, let's go to the far side here and we'll do that one so you can see that one a little bit bigger. Isn't that amazing how those pins just pop up? That's because the dye soaks into the end grain, so you get a little bit deeper definition there. So I'm going to go ahead now and finish this, and we'll come back and we'll start doing the Tung Oil, the topical finish. Now our little box is coming along quite nicely. You can see that the stain or the dye has gone on all of the pieces, and I've actually given it one coat of Tung Oil. Now this Minwax, the way they suggest that you apply it is to put on a liberal amount, wait 10 minutes and then wipe it off. And when I did that, it looked like there was nothing on, so I'm probably going to need to give this probably 3 coats, and I'm going to do that off camera because nobody wants to watch somebody paint. So that's what I'm going to do off camera. Now the other thing that I'm going to do, we're going to be flocking the inside of this box, and we actually need to use something, a green glue, so that it all blends in nicely. But the glue, so that the glue doesn't absorb into the wood, we actually need to seal the entire inside of the box. And I've gone ahead and mixed up some shellac And again, off camera, I'm just going to be painting the inside of the box with shellac, and all it's going to do is to seal the wood, and I think it's going to take probably a couple of coats. So when we come back, we should have the outside box finished, the surface will be finished, and we'll be ready to do the flocking on the inside of the box. We finished the outside of the box now, and you can see how the pins really pop. That tung oil and the dye just really made the box look really rich on the outside, so that looks really good. The next thing we have to do now is to do some flocking on the inside, and we're going to be using some green flocking material, so we have some green glue to match it. On small boxes it doesn't matter so much, but on a bigger box like this, you really want to use the proper glue because it has a coloring in it, so that if you don't get the flocking in absolutely every part, it doesn't show up so badly. So that's the next thing I'm going to do, is actually set up a screen here to do some flocking, and I will coat the inside of this with this green glue, and then this is the flocking material we're going to be using. It's like a green fuzz, and we'll be putting it in this little flocking gun, and you've seen these before, just a tube with some holes in the end of it, and then the flocking just gets pumped onto the glue. Then we need to let it set for 24 hours and we can finish up the box. So I'm going to go ahead now and set this up and put the glue in here. So I've coated the inside, and I just used the disposable foam brush for that glue. And you can see my stick there that I stirred the glue with. You need to really make sure you stir the glue well. And there's all the flocking material in the gun. And now all I'm going to do is shoot the flocking material onto, and just keep pumping it on. And that's why I have this background, is so that all of the excess will get caught on the plastic here. Now the back, of course, is the most important, to make sure you get lots of flocking on that. And then, of course, the sides. And if you run out of flocking, you just have to fill up the gun with more. Now this is going to take 24 hours to dry, and you can't put too much flocking on. Any of the flocking that's extra will fall down in the bottom of the tray, and you'll be able to pick up a little bit off the plastic as well. And then you just collect that up the next day and save it, put it back in the little bag. And that's just about got it. Well, it's the next day, and I took the opportunity off camera to put the piano hinge on the front of the little box, and of course the lid lifts up now, and a locking hasp on the back. But I want to show you another little detail that I did on this to help make this more secure. Now what I'm showing you is the back of the box here, and this is a little eye bolt, and it goes right through, and there's a nut on the back, and it just spins around. You can't undo it without undoing the nut on the inside. And the idea of this is, if you're taking this to a show, you can actually lock this with a little chain. You can lock this to a table or whatever, something secure, because these small little boxes, people have actually picked them up and just walked off with the whole little box. So you need to not only secure it so that people can't get into them, but you need to make sure that you can secure it to something that isn't going to walk away with the box. So this concludes our video, part 3 of making the little picker box. And this is a great little project to make for anybody who's looking for a box to display or sell, maybe little antique items, jewelry, coins, glass ornaments, something like that. They look really rich in the green. We've used box joints on the outside and dye and tung oil to make the wood look very rich. So the whole box is a very attractive looking little display box.